Hi everyone, I'm Candice. Thank you to Tropics Business Summit for this wonderful opportunity to talk about something I'm really passionate about, and that is social enterprises. And today I want to talk about social enterprises and their role in stimulating rural economies. Now, a common perception is that a social enterprise is a charity and not interested in making profit or growth. However, most businesses, if they truly consider the collaborative impact of employee wellness, job creation initiatives, and corporate social responsibility will probably classify under the definition of social enterprises. In South Africa, a social enterprise does not exist as a legal entity. It is just a descriptive form that's given to a not for profit or a for profit company. But the term social enterprise is quite well known in the rest of Africa and actually quite prominent in the UK. It is an undertaking, though, by the company, whether it's profit or not profit, to meet some kind of social welfare objective. In other words, whatever business form you choose, you can define your business as a social enterprise just by having a social impact in terms of how you do business. By selling goods and services by selling goods and services in the open market, social enterprises reinvest the money they make back into their businesses or their local community. This allows them to tackle social problems, improve people's life chances, support communities, and help the environment. So, when a social enterprise profits, society profits. When we look at rural economies, though, most studies report on the barriers to economic inclusion in these economies, failing to recognize that the informal economy in rural areas are based around social enterprises and cooperatives, as well as social savings clubs like the stockpiles we have in South Africa. But why are they so effective in rural economies? Well, firstly, the business concept is simple. They are meeting a need that exists and they have easy access to markets. Secondly, the business model is based on collaboration, cooperation within the community. At least 71% of social enterprises focus on the localized economy or work across a single province in South Africa. Next, there is no financing involved or no mainstream financing involved. The enterprise flourishes through social financing like stockpiles or crowdfunding or just short term cash loans. So it makes it easier for them to turn over their, their business. The business objectives also focus on meeting basic needs in the community, like education, healthcare, or housing, and a local community base. 70% are centered on skills development and education. And this is what is desperately needed in local economies. Next, enterprises does not formalize itself. So they don't have to worry about registration with CIMPC. Most of them just operate as an informal business or a not-for-profit. And in limited instances, you'll have a registered PTY Limited that is motivated to the benefit it receives from grant funding or from loans to have a social aspect in their business. And finally, social enterprises are innovating in creating the greatest gain for the greatest benefit. 67% of social enterprises reported higher than average growth year on year. Because they are meeting a social need, they are quite adaptable to move with the market to ensure that supply meets demand. Of course, a social enterprise does not necessarily work on high profits, but rather on sustainable profits. So coming back to our rural economy, in a rural context, social enterprises congregate around what the main or available industry that exists in that rural economy. Normally it is mining or agriculture. In some instances, you have the protected natural resources like Kruger and other parks. In addition, social enterprises focus on food security, social welfare, women and children education. While being generally small enterprises, at least 12% of them generate an income of over 1 million rand annually, and at least 80% have an income of less than 500,000. Not so bad outlook for a business solving society's problems. In addition, the vast majority of social enterprises employ up to 50 people. In a country where we're experiencing a massive unemployment rate, this is significant. We're also experiencing negative economic growth, and no way is it far more than in the rural economies. And yet, you will still find stockpiles social saving schemes like street committees and funeral schemes evident in rural areas and in township economies. What makes them ideal for rural economies is they are specifically set up to solve a problem in that particular environment, and they need to continually adapt to the environment's needs. In poverty-stricken rural economies, social objectives becomes more important than generating a profit. Hence, most social enterprises start off as not-for-profit entities. However, within the business model exists the ability to not just make profit, but to replicate into other rural economies, as well as to scale up into fully fledged profit-generating businesses. And yet, the tension continually exists with entrepreneurs. Do we pursue profit, financial gain, or do we try and achieve a social benefit? This is very often the limiting factor with the social entrepreneurs, from scaling up as a measure of the social change and impact is demanded by stakeholders, donors, impact investors, and beneficiaries. This keeps them placing social gain over economic profit. But there's never a real problem to identify a good social enterprise. For example, in rural communities that have access to good climates, there's always the idea of subsistence farming or the agri industry that springs up around the mainstream farming that provides the opportunities for safe food security for the poor. This also provides innovation for climate smart solutions in the agricultural industry, especially when it comes to water shortage. For example, building boreholes that double as a children's roundabouts. This way, children have a safe place to play, and as they play on the roundabout, they pump water from the borehole, which they can carry back home, making chores part of their playtime. Or how about taking the market to the rural areas? One social enterprise hooks up a laptop in the middle of the fields with grazing cows and conducts online auctions, making thousands of rands for local cattle breeders who do not have access to markets. In Kenya, a local chicken farmer uses young schoolgirls to raise chickens for him. He contracts with the girl and gives her 12 chicks and her family, of course, 12 chicks and enough feed and an easy to assemble chicken run. And at the end of the cycle, she is guaranteed to sell all her fully grown chickens at a set price. 50% of the net profit goes to pay her school fees. The balance goes to her family. It keeps her in school and allows her family to receive an income generated from the chickens and teaches her, at the very least, a skill in chicken raising. In other communities, the pooling of resources for trade of local products or to service the tourism industry is vital for the survival of the industry. Joint resourcing means that social enterprises can find common markets and determine competitive prices for their products. In Mpumalanga, for example, as a social enterprise that has created an online marketplace for tourism curios, necklaces, and other African crafts, which tourists can order online well after they have visited the area and had their purchases delivered to their homes instead of having to add their baggage weight on their flight home. Poverty also creates innovation, and in poorly serviced areas, we see innovation in purification of water systems. One such enterprise has created an innovative system where the tap to wash your hands empties into the cistern of the toilet, providing a secondary use for the same quantity of water to flush the pan with. While this may be a rural innovation, the concept will do quite well in urban areas with the high cost of utilities demand innovative solutions. So, where do we go from here in dealing with social enterprise? There is always an argument of profit over purpose. Some argue that social enterprises need to invest all their profits into the organization to stay true to its purpose. In a country where we are looking for alternatives to mainstream economies, and businesses at a time when COVID has literally massacred our economy, social enterprises have continued to operate to plug the needs of the very poor and in the aftermath of COVID and in rebuilding our economies. I am encouraged to see more and more social enterprises stepping forward with innovative solutions. And I encourage you all to invest in your social enterprises, even in the form of just participating in their activities or providing much needed finance or assisting them to scale up. Because at this current time, they are saving society, they are putting purpose over profit, but they are still being profitable. Thank you so much.